Hi there, welcome back to Hidden Home. This video is aimed at Jay from Jay's Audio Lab. Hi Jay, this is genuinely meant to be a really helpful video for you. So I've been following you for years. I've met you in Munich at the big Macintosh Sonus Faber launch. And I'm seeing you move and I'm seeing you to build these rooms. And I've always looked at your room going, God, I wish I could help you out with some acoustic treatment because everything you've done has been better than nothing, but it really isn't how to treat a room fundamentally when you have that opportunity. And I can see you've got this amazing opportunity to use deep treatment without it costing you space. And I want to explain to you why what you've been told by these people about the suspended walls is just simply soundproofing and nothing to do with acoustic treatment. I will go through it bit by bit, and I haven't scripted or prepared this video at all, so do bear with me. I'll probably miss some important bits, but hopefully we'll cover enough that you'll understand where I'm coming from. So the first thing I want to show you quickly is just the soundproofing page that I'm on, that I've just Googled to show you what you've been talking about, and to prove that it's soundproofing, not acoustic treatment. Here we are. So you were told to put the metal leaf springs in and then fix your heavy damped board to that. What that does is it suspends this part of the ceiling from, oh, my fingers make it go blurry, from the substructure, and the same applies to walls and floors and everything else like that. So it's like suspension on a car. So the vibration hits the plasterboard surface, that moves on the suspended on the suspension, which is these metal leaf springs, and then because it's moving on the leaf springs don't pass that vibration into the substructure and then through to the other side of the wall, so it soundproofs the room. That system needs to be airtight. The higher the mass of this, the more energy it takes to vibrate, and therefore that then means that it can't vibrate and transfer through at low energy levels, and then when it does, the suspension comes into play again. So also this void and damping in that void is important too, but that's another level of soundproofing. So resilient bar, heavy damp boards, multiple layers of all of that thing, adding mass to this surface makes it more soundproof, but it does not make it acoustically treated. It's not a listening room benefit. It is to the outside world, your adjoining room, but not to the sound quality in the room you're applying this treatment in. So how and what do you need? Basically what you need is an absorber to absorb the reflections in your room. Now I should have actually got your room proportions off of your video, but here we are. So I'm going to put this into feet, and I think you were talking about something about maybe, was it 20 feet or so? I think you said something like about 12 feet on the wall, but this really doesn't matter. I know you're talking about golden ratios or something, but that's kind of been debunked from being something where, I think actually maybe you're a bit more than that, weren't you? You were, let's call it 25 by 20 by 12 or something. Anyway, the idea behind golden ratios is that within your room, no one axis, so left, right, front, back, floor to ceiling, has the same pattern of room modes so that they don't stack on top of each other. It's kind of like sort of having non-divisible numbers for each side so that you don't get harmonic summation of room modes, and then that means that you have this more even dispersion of peaks and troughs across the room, which then when you sit on about the 1/3 mark and put your on the 2/3 and put your speaker on the 1/3, you should be sat between as many of these peaks and troughs as is humanly possible. So it's a sound theory, but it doesn't eradicate room modes, and it doesn't eradicate listening position and speaker positioning problems and speaker boundary interference and all these other problems. So the only way to eradicate all of that is absorption of the reflections in the first place, and you can never treat the floor, so you're always going to have speaker boundary interference to some degree, and it's really hard to get depth on the ceiling, but not in your case, Jay. So please, please, please listen to this. What I'm going to show you now, I'm going to take the subwoofers out of the equation for this. So, right, this is a rough room, probably not your dimensions, but let's just say it is for argument's sake, because this kind of whole principle applies no matter what. This is your current frequency response of that room. You have volume over here, you should be pretty familiar with, and you have hertz going up here. Now this model's up to 300 hertz because there's not much point going beyond that, because it all comes down to millimeters and centimeters of listening positions and stuff like that. So you can just assume that it's easy to treat beyond 300 hertz. But in terms of your bass response, if this was your room, you like your speakers out in the room, probably somewhere around here in your old lab. Let me just spread them out a tiny bit more. I'd say you were on something like that and you were listening back here. Well, immediately that room has a huge suck out here at just under 30 hertz, huge peaks either side to make that dip worse, and then it's all over the shop everywhere else. So this is based on putting in show anechoic response. This is based on putting in 75 hertz into the room, and this is what the room does to that 75 hertz. Let me untick that box, it's really hard to see both. Look at that. So you're now talking about having 120 or louder dB peaks and troughs down, well, it's gone off the scale down to like, 50 hertz, maybe lower, hard to tell. But you have a huge, 70 dB variation. This is with fully reflective walls, so plasterboard or heavier block walls. Your soundproofing system will do nothing for that reflectivity of the wall. It's still the same surface material. So what you need to do is you need to absorb the reflections, and that's what I'm turning up here. How much of a reflection is absorbed? That's 43% of the front wall. And if I do then add some on maybe the left wall and some on the ceiling, the response of your room gets significantly better. Doesn't eradicate it, but it gets better. I'm then going to add a bit more to a few other surfaces. Can't do the floor really. Let's just put a carpet in. It'll be absolutely negligible, and a bit on the right hand wall. And now you can see that the variation in decibel peaks is gone. Well, it's peak here at 90, trough at 95, 65. So it's gone from, whatever I said, about 70 dB down to about 30 dB, isn't it? Which is still significant, but there is one more thing you can start to do, and that is moving your listening position and moving your speakers. You can see I've made it worse by doing this. So there we go, moving your speakers back over there and your listening position somewhere around there. Now we are significantly better. So what you need to do, Jay, is look at what creates these levels of absorption. Now there is a tool for that online. It is called the Porous Absorber Calculator. And what this does is it has, again, frequency along the bottom and the amount of absorption that the absorber will absorb going up here. This curve is based on 100 mil of rock wall slab. So you can now see, if we go to that region, that chart was showing us 300 hertz down, the maximum absorption you'll get up near the 300 mark is 70%, which is really good. But down in the base region, everything up to about 100 hertz is only 0.2, which is kind of the threshold of meaningful absorption. So what you need to do is you need several walls in your room and the ceiling ideally to be at least 400 mil of a less dense than rock wall slab, so something like loft insulation. And then you get this. You get meaningful absorption down to about 30 hertz, and you need that on several walls, and I'll show you that in the modeling again. So going back to Roomy Q Wizard, over here I have entered in those kinds of figures for absorption on several of your walls, but let's change it to your ceiling. Could be amazing because it's so deep and you have all that loft void, so you could get really meaningful absorption because you could have meters of really fluffy stuff up there. You've got a bit of space left and right, but I'm not going to say you've got a lot because you want to get your 2 rooms in. Back wall you probably don't have a lot, but you do have the front wall because you could treat most of the wall but keep low down for your kit. So let's put a bit on there, and then you could be in these regions of frequency response. So that's by adjusting listening position, speaker position for speaker boundary interference, and absorption on your walls. And I just want to go back, Jay, this is what you do if you soundproof the room but don't acoustically treat it. And I promise you that company is selling you soundproofing. And if you wish me to do more videos to prove it, I will. Or if you want to send me a link or call me like I've invited you to, I can just check I'm not getting the wrong end of the stick on that. But from what you described, they're selling you soundproofing and your room's going to look like that. So please, 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 I hope you've watched this video and do call me. I want to give you free advice. I want to help you out. I want to see your room amazing and I want to see your channel prosper. So yeah, free advice. I can design this for you or talk to the person on your behalf that's going to design it for you, just to make sure that there's no mistakes and no mis-setting going on. Anyway, take care. Bye.